In enemy archives, strange notes were sometimes found in the margins of reports. These were not loud slogans and not the names of marshals, but a surname that made officers change their usual schemes of battle. That name was Mikhail Katukov. Why did he make German generals admit that their equipment and familiar methods no longer worked? In his biography, there are episodes people preferred not to speak about because they destroyed official legends. In his battles, there were moments when thousands of lives were at stake, and a single mistake could ruin everything. Katukov managed to turn steel and soil into a weapon that even the most confident tank divisions stepped back from. But behind the shine of victory were hidden conflicts, desperate risks, and decisions that are still debated today. Stay until the end, because there the most unexpected pages of this story are revealed. Don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe. You are not here by accident. Mikhail Efimovich Katukov entered the world on September 17, 1900, in the village of Bolshoe Uvarovo, where the rhythm of rural life had remained unchanged for centuries. His family worked the land, understanding machines only as simple tools. Yet within 2 decades, this peasant boy would be commanding the most sophisticated weapons of his era. The transformation began during Russia's Civil War chaos. Young Katukov found himself swept into the Red Army's ranks, where survival meant learning quickly. Unlike many of his contemporaries who viewed military service as temporary necessity, Katukov discovered something unexpected. He possessed a natural talent for understanding how battles unfolded. His early years in the peacetime Red Army revealed a methodical mind. While others focused on parade ground precision, Katukov studied the mechanical intricacies of warfare. He absorbed lessons about logistics, communication, and the delicate psychology of men under pressure. These weren't glamorous subjects, but they formed the foundation of everything that would follow. By the 1930s, as Stalin's military modernization gathered momentum, Katukov had established himself as someone worth watching. He wasn't the most politically connected officer, nor did he possess the theatrical presence that often attracted attention. Instead, he had developed something rarer, the ability to see patterns where others saw only confusion. The Soviet Union was rapidly industrializing its military, producing tanks in unprecedented numbers. Most commanders focused on the impressive statistics: how many vehicles, how much armor, what caliber guns. Katukov understood that these numbers meant nothing without the right tactical framework. He began developing ideas about how armored units should actually fight, ideas that would soon be tested under the most extreme circumstances imaginable. The transition into mechanized warfare represented more than just new equipment. It demanded an entirely different conception of battle. Traditional infantry tactics, even when adapted for motorized units, proved inadequate for the speed and complexity of armored combat. Katukov recognized this challenge earlier than most. His approach to tank warfare developed gradually through countless training exercises and tactical discussions. Where conventional doctrine emphasized frontal assault and overwhelming firepower, Katukov explored subtler possibilities. He studied how terrain could be used to negate enemy advantages, how timing could multiply the effectiveness of smaller forces, and how psychological pressure could achieve what brute strength could not. The T-34 tank, just entering production, fascinated him. This wasn't merely a weapons platform. It was a tactical revolution waiting to be unlocked. The vehicle's combination of armor, mobility, and firepower created possibilities that existing doctrine hadn't contemplated. Katukov spent hours studying its capabilities, understanding not just what it could do, but how it could be used in ways that enemy commanders wouldn't anticipate. His brigade became something of a laboratory for unconventional tactics. While other units practiced standard maneuvers, Katukov's men learned to think like hunters rather than cavalry. They studied concealment, practiced rapid repositioning, and developed an almost instinctive understanding of when to strike and when to withdraw. This preparation proved fortuitous. By 1941, as tensions with Germany escalated, Katukov commanded the 4th Tank Brigade, a unit that had evolved beyond conventional expectations. His men shared his tactical philosophy, understanding that survival and victory often depended on doing the unexpected at exactly the right moment. When war erupted in June 1941, Katukov's 4th Tank Brigade found itself thrust into the most critical phase of the Battle of Moscow. The Wehrmacht's advance had shattered multiple Soviet armies, and German panzer groups were driving toward the capital with what appeared to be unstoppable momentum. October 6th became a defining moment. Guderian's 4th Panzer Division, part of the supposedly invincible Panzergruppe II, rolled confidently along the Oryol-Mtsensk road, expecting another routine breakthrough. They had grown accustomed to Soviet armor retreating or fighting predictably. What they encountered instead challenged everything they thought they understood about their opponents. Katukov had positioned his T-34s in the forests near Mtsensk, concealed among the trees while German armor passed by. This wasn't cowardice or defensive positioning. It was calculated ambush tactics on a scale never before attempted in mechanized warfare. When the trap was sprung, Soviet tanks attacked from both flanks simultaneously, savaging the German Panzer IV tanks in a coordinated assault that left the Wehrmacht formation in chaos. The psychological impact proved as devastating as the tactical results. German tank crews, who had grown confident in their technical and tactical superiority, suddenly faced opponents who fought with unexpected cunning and coordination. The T-34's superior armor and armament, combined with Katukov's innovative tactics, created a combination that German doctrine hadn't anticipated. The shock was so profound that Guderian ordered a special investigation to understand what had gone wrong. This wasn't just about a single defeat. It represented a fundamental challenge to German assumptions about armored warfare. The investigation's conclusions would influence Wehrmacht tank design and tactics for the remainder of the war. For 10 days, from October 4th through 11th, Katukov's brigade continued to demonstrate that Soviet armor could not only resist German advances, but actively outmaneuver and defeat elite panzer units. The Soviet government recognized the significance of this achievement, redesignating the 4th Tank Brigade as the 1st Guards Tank Brigade on November 11th. The battles around Moscow established Katukov as more than just a successful commander. He had become an innovator whose methods were reshaping how the Red Army approached mechanized combat. His tactics combined technical excellence with psychological warfare, creating results that exceeded what pure numerical superiority might have achieved. The transformation of his unit into the 1st Guards Tank Brigade represented official recognition of tactical innovation that was already influencing Soviet armored doctrine throughout the front. Other commanders began studying Katukov's methods, trying to understand how he consistently achieved favorable outcomes against supposedly superior German formations. His approach emphasized mobility and surprise over static defense. Rather than waiting for enemy attacks, Katukov's units actively hunted German armor, using terrain and timing to create advantageous engagements. This required exceptional coordination between tank crews, reconnaissance units, and supporting infantry, a level of tactical sophistication that most armies hadn't yet achieved. The psychological dimension proved equally important. German tank crews, who had dominated European battlefields through technical superiority and aggressive tactics, found themselves facing opponents who consistently outthought and outmaneuvered them. This gradual erosion of confidence would have strategic implications far beyond individual engagements. Katukov's success also demonstrated the T-34's potential when properly employed. While other Soviet commanders struggled with the transition to new equipment, he had developed tactical frameworks that maximized the tank's advantages while compensating for its limitations. His crews became renowned for their ability to engage German armor at ranges and angles that negated traditional advantages. The winter battles around Moscow saw Katukov's methods refined through constant combat. His brigade didn't just survive the Wehrmacht's most determined assault. They played a crucial role in demonstrating that German armor could be systematically defeated through superior tactics and coordination. By 1943, Katukov commanded the 1st Guards Tank Army, leading hundreds of vehicles and thousands of men in what would become the largest tank battle in history. The Battle of Kursk represented the ultimate test of everything he had learned about armored warfare, pitting his tactical innovations against the Wehrmacht's most advanced technology and experienced commanders. German preparations for Operation Citadel included new tank designs, specifically intended to counter the T-34's advantages. The Tiger and Panther tanks possessed thicker armor and more powerful guns, while German tactics had evolved to address the ambush methods that Katukov had pioneered. This would be a battle between learning armies, each having absorbed lessons from previous encounters. Katukov's approach to Kursk differed significantly from the defensive strategies employed by other Soviet commanders. Rather than simply absorbing German attacks, he planned active countermeasures designed to disrupt enemy formations before they could achieve their objectives. His tank army would fight as a cohesive unit, with individual brigades supporting each other in coordinated maneuvers. The battle's intensity exceeded even veteran expectations. German panzer divisions, supported by new heavy tanks and improved tactics, pressed forward with methodical determination. Soviet defenders, including Katukov's tank army, responded with carefully planned counterattacks that struck at precisely calculated moments and positions. Katukov's tactical genius manifested in his ability to coordinate complex movements under extreme pressure. His units didn't simply react to German initiatives. They anticipated enemy moves and positioned themselves to exploit the brief vulnerabilities that inevitably appeared in even the most carefully planned attacks. This required exceptional communication and timing, qualities that his army had developed through months of intensive preparation. The battle's outcome validated Katukov's tactical philosophy. German forces, despite their technological advantages and careful planning, found themselves unable to achieve the breakthrough that Operation Citadel required. The combination of improved Soviet equipment, refined tactics, and experienced leadership had created a defensive system that could not only withstand but actively counter the Wehrmacht's best efforts. Kursk marked the turning point, where Soviet armored forces transitioned from desperate defense to coordinated offensive action. Katukov's 1st Guards Tank Army would lead this transformation, fighting through Belarus, Poland, and ultimately into Germany itself, culminating in the Battle of Berlin. The offensive campaigns revealed new dimensions of Katukov's tactical abilities. Moving hundreds of tanks across vast distances while maintaining combat effectiveness required logistical and organizational skills that complemented his battlefield innovations. His army became a model for how mechanized units could sustain prolonged offensive operations. Each campaign presented unique challenges that tested different aspects of armored warfare. The fighting in Belarus required navigating difficult terrain while maintaining momentum against prepared German defenses. The Polish campaign involved urban combat, that demanded close coordination between tanks and infantry. The final drive into Germany combined breakthrough operations with the political sensitivity of fighting on enemy territory. Katukov commanded his tank army through the Lvov-Sandomierz offensive and the Vistula-Oder offensive, demonstrating the tactical flexibility that had made him one of the Soviet Union's most effective commanders. His ability to adapt methods developed during defensive battles to offensive operations showed a conceptual understanding of mechanized warfare that transcended specific circumstances. The approach to Berlin represented the culmination of everything Katukov had learned about combining tactical innovation with strategic objectives. Urban warfare demanded modifications to tactics that had proved effective in open terrain, while the political importance of the final battle added pressures beyond pure military considerations. On May 8, 1945, Victory in Europe Day, Katukov attended victory celebrations alongside American General George Patton, a symbolic meeting between commanders who had each revolutionized armored warfare in their respective theaters. Military success often obscures the personality of the individual who achieves it, reducing complex human beings to simplified heroic narratives. Katukov's character proved more nuanced than his public reputation suggested, combining tactical brilliance with the practical challenges of command during history's most destructive conflict. His relationship with subordinates reflected a leadership style that balanced discipline with genuine concern for his soldiers' welfare. Unlike commanders who achieved results through intimidation or disregard for casualties, Katukov understood that tactical sophistication required troops who trusted their leader's judgment. This trust had to be earned through consistent competence and demonstrated care for their survival. The pressures of commanding large formations while maintaining the tactical innovation that had made him successful created inevitable tensions. As his responsibilities expanded from brigade to army level, Katukov had to delegate tactical decisions while ensuring that his methods continued to influence how battles were fought. This required developing subordinate commanders who shared his tactical philosophy while possessing the independence to adapt his methods to changing circumstances. His interactions with fellow commanders revealed both the respect he had earned and the professional rivalries that competitive environments inevitably create. Military leaders who achieve exceptional success often find themselves navigating complex relationships with peers who may view their methods with skepticism or jealousy. The stress of prolonged combat command affected even the most capable leaders. Katukov's ability to maintain tactical clarity while managing the psychological pressures of responsibility for thousands of lives demonstrated emotional resilience that complemented his intellectual capabilities. These human dimensions don't diminish his achievements, but rather provide context for understanding how exceptional military performance emerges from the interaction between individual capability and historical circumstances. Following the war, Katukov became commander of mechanized forces for the group of Soviet forces in Germany, and later served as Inspector General of the Army, positions that allowed him to influence how the Soviet military would develop during the post-war period. The transition from wartime command to peacetime administration required different skills, but remained consistent with Katukov's career-long focus on tactical innovation. His post-war responsibilities involved adapting the lessons learned during the conflict to the changing requirements of military organization in the nuclear age. His influence on Soviet tank doctrine extended far beyond his direct command responsibilities. The tactical methods he had pioneered during the war became incorporated into training programs and operational planning throughout the Soviet military. This institutional influence ensured that his innovations would continue shaping armored warfare long after his active service ended. The post-war period also provided opportunities for reflection on the war's lessons and their implications for future conflict. Katukov's experiences had given him unique insights into how technological development, tactical innovation, and human factors combine to determine military outcomes. Mikhail Katukov died on June 8, 1976, aged 75, in Moscow, and is buried at Novodevichy Cemetery, joining other Soviet military leaders who had shaped their nation's history during its most critical period. His legacy extended beyond personal achievement to encompass the broader transformation of how nations approached mechanized warfare, influences that continued shaping military doctrine decades after his death. The reputation that surrounds any successful military commander inevitably becomes a mixture of documented achievement and mythological embellishment. Katukov's case presents particularly interesting questions about how wartime propaganda, enemy assessments, and post-war memory combine to create a complex legacy. German military records provide some of the most objective assessments of Katukov's effectiveness, precisely because they were written by opponents who had no interest in inflating Soviet achievements. The Wehrmacht's tactical analyses consistently identified him as a commander whose methods required special attention and countermeasures. Guderian's post-war memoirs acknowledged the tactical sophistication that Katukov's formations had demonstrated, praising innovations that had forced German armor to reconsider fundamental assumptions about mechanized warfare. This professional recognition from a respected enemy commander carries particular weight because it was based on direct battlefield experience rather than propaganda requirements. Soviet military historians faced the challenge of celebrating Katukov's achievements while maintaining the ideological framework that emphasized collective rather than individual accomplishment. This created narratives that sometimes understated the innovative aspects of his tactical methods in favor of emphasizing patriotic determination and party leadership. The contrast between official biographies and personal recollections from soldiers who served under his command reveals interesting discrepancies. Veterans' accounts often emphasize the practical competence and genuine concern for subordinates that official histories tend to minimize in favor of broader themes about Soviet military superiority. Intelligence assessments from Western military observers during and after the war provide another perspective on Katukov's significance. Allied analysts recognized his tactical innovations as representing a genuine advancement in armored warfare doctrine, influences that would shape how NATO forces approached mechanized combat during the Cold War period. These multiple perspectives create a complex portrait of a commander whose actual achievements may have been both greater and different than his public reputation suggested. The tactical innovations that Katukov pioneered during World War II continue influencing how modern military forces approach armored warfare, though the connections are often subtle and indirect rather than obvious and acknowledged. Contemporary tank doctrine incorporates principles that trace their origins to methods Katukov developed during desperate battles around Moscow. The emphasis on mobility, concealment, and coordinated combined arms operations reflects lessons learned through his tactical experimentation under extreme combat conditions. Modern military academies study the battles of Mtsensk and Kursk as examples of how inferior forces can achieve success through superior tactical planning and execution. These case studies continue providing insights into the relationship between technology, training, and leadership in determining military outcomes. The psychological dimensions of Katukov's success have influenced contemporary understanding of how technological advantages can be negated through tactical innovation and superior morale. His methods demonstrated that equipment superiority means little without the tactical framework to exploit it effectively. NATO armor doctrine during the Cold War incorporated countermeasures designed to address the tactical methods that Soviet forces had developed based on Katukov's innovations. This represented a continuing dialogue between tactical development and counter-development that extended his influence across ideological boundaries. Contemporary peacekeeping and urban warfare operations have rediscovered principles that Katukov understood about the importance of coordination between armored units and supporting forces. Modern combined arms doctrine reflects lessons that his formations learned through combat experience during some of history's most intense battles. The digital revolution in military communications has made possible the kind of real-time coordination that Katukov achieved through exceptional training and leadership, suggesting that his tactical vision was constrained more by available technology than by conceptual limitations. Beyond the strategic significance and tactical innovations, Katukov's story connects to thousands of individual experiences that reveal the human dimensions of mechanized warfare. Veterans' accounts provide glimpses into what it meant to serve under a commander whose methods often determined whether soldiers survived their next engagement. Tank crew members who fought under Katukov's command recalled the confidence that came from knowing their leader understood not just how to use their equipment effectively, but how to position them for survival. This psychological factor may have contributed as much to his tactical success as the innovative methods themselves. The families of soldiers who served in Katukov's formations experienced the war differently than those whose relatives served under less competent commanders. Letters home often mention the sense of being part of something special. Units that approached combat with greater sophistication and effectiveness than typical formations. Maintenance crews and logistical personnel provided perspectives on Katukov's attention to details that other commanders often overlooked. His understanding that tactical brilliance meant nothing without reliable equipment and adequate supplies created organizational cultures that emphasized competence at every level. German prisoners captured by Katukov's units reported different treatment than they received elsewhere, suggesting that his tactical confidence translated into a form of professional respect that transcended ideological hatred. These accounts provide insights into how military professionalism could survive even the most brutal conflicts. The villages and towns where Katukov's formations fought retain memories of liberation that differ from those associated with other Soviet units. Local accounts emphasize the disciplined behavior and tactical competence that reduced both military and civilian casualties during combat operations. Soviet war correspondents who accompanied his units filed reports that balanced propaganda requirements with genuine admiration for tactical innovations they witnessed firsthand. These accounts provide contemporary perspectives on how Katukov's methods appeared to observers who understood their historical significance. Post-war reunions of veterans who served under Katukov's command became occasions for sharing stories that official histories couldn't accommodate. These informal narratives preserve details about personality, leadership style, and tactical decision-making that provide fuller portraits of both the commander and the conflict he helped shape. The medal citations and service records of soldiers who fought in Katukov's formations show patterns of recognition that reflect his influence on how the Soviet military identified and rewarded exceptional performance under combat conditions. Archaeological discoveries at battlefield sites where Katukov's units fought continue revealing evidence of the tactical methods he employed, providing physical confirmation of innovations that transformed mechanized warfare during one of history's most decisive periods. Katukov's influence extended far beyond battlefield tactics into the very design and engineering of Soviet armored vehicles. His extensive combat experience provided invaluable feedback to design bureaus, helping shape the evolution of tank technology from the T-34 through post-war developments. The relationship between field commanders and tank designers had historically been limited, with engineers working from theoretical requirements rather than practical combat experience. Katukov changed this dynamic by maintaining direct communication with design teams throughout the war, providing detailed reports on how vehicles performed under actual combat conditions. His observations about the T-34's performance led to specific modifications that enhanced crew survivability and tactical effectiveness. The T-34-85 variant introduced in early 1944 incorporated many improvements that reflected lessons learned through Katukov's combat reports, including enhanced crew compartment layout and improved ammunition storage. Working with chief designer Alexander Morozov and the Kharkov Design Bureau, Katukov influenced the development of what would become the T-44 medium tank. His recommendations addressed chronic problems with the T-34's suspension system and crew comfort, leading to the T-44's improved transmission and suspension design. Katukov understood that tactical innovation required mechanical reliability. His units maintained detailed maintenance logs that revealed patterns of mechanical failure under combat stress. This data proved invaluable for identifying design weaknesses that might not appear during peacetime testing, but became critical under battlefield conditions. The post-war T-54 tank incorporated numerous features that originated in Katukov's wartime recommendations. His emphasis on simplicity and battlefield maintenance influenced design decisions that would make Soviet tanks more reliable and easier to produce in large quantities. His technical insights extended beyond individual vehicle design to broader questions of armored force organization. Katukov advocated for standardized components across different vehicle types, reducing logistical complexity while maintaining tactical flexibility. These principles would influence Soviet tank design philosophy for decades. The diesel engines that became standard in Soviet tanks reflected Katukov's preference for reliability over peak performance. His experience demonstrated that the T-34's diesel engine provided crucial advantages in range and durability compared to gasoline-powered alternatives, lessons that influenced post-war engine development. The international military community's assessment of Katukov provides unique insight into how his innovations were perceived by both allies and enemies. These external evaluations, free from domestic political considerations, offer objective measures of his tactical contributions. The Berlin Victory Parade of September 7, 1945, brought together senior Allied commanders, including Marshal Zhukov and General Patton, creating opportunities for direct professional interaction between the war's most successful tank commanders. These meetings facilitated informal exchanges of tactical knowledge that influenced post-war military development. American military observers who witnessed Katukov's formations in action filed reports that emphasized the sophistication of Soviet armored tactics under his command. These assessments contributed to fundamental revisions in U.S. Army doctrine regarding mechanized warfare and the integration of tank and infantry operations. British military intelligence maintained extensive files on Soviet tank commanders, with Katukov receiving particular attention due to his tactical innovations. These classified assessments, declassified decades later, reveal the professional respect he commanded among potential adversaries who understood the implications of his methods. The technical intelligence gathered from captured German documents revealed the extent to which Wehrmacht commanders had studied Katukov's tactics. German training manuals developed late in the war included specific countermeasures designed to address the ambush methods he had pioneered. French military observers, despite limited direct contact with Soviet forces, recognized Katukov's contributions through their analysis of German tactical changes throughout the war. The evolution of Wehrmacht armored doctrine reflected attempts to counter the methods that Katukov's formations had demonstrated. Post-war military exchanges between Allied nations included detailed discussions of armored warfare developments, with Katukov's innovations serving as reference points for comparative analysis. These professional interactions influenced NATO tank doctrine development during the early Cold War period. The mutual respect between Katukov and Western tank commanders transcended ideological differences, reflecting shared professional understanding of the tactical challenges inherent in mechanized warfare. This professional recognition would prove significant during post-war military technological competitions. Katukov's influence on Soviet military education extended far beyond his direct command responsibilities, shaping how an entire generation of officers understood armored warfare. His methods became integral components of training programs at military academies throughout the Soviet Union. The Frunze Military Academy incorporated case studies based on Katukov's battles into their standard curriculum, ensuring that his tactical innovations would influence officers who never served directly under his command. These academic programs preserved and systematized knowledge that might otherwise have remained limited to personal experience. Many of the tank commanders who achieved prominence during the war's later stages had served under Katukov early in their careers, carrying his tactical philosophy to other formations. This informal network of protégés ensured that his methods spread throughout Soviet armored forces. The Tank and Mechanized Forces Academy established specific courses examining Katukov's tactical innovations, treating them as foundational principles rather than historical curiosities. These programs attracted students from Warsaw Pact nations, extending his influence beyond Soviet military circles. Colonel General Pavel Rotmistrov, commander of the 5th Guards Tank Army, acknowledged adopting several of Katukov's tactical concepts for his own formations. This cross-pollination between elite units accelerated the spread of innovative methods throughout Soviet armored forces. The emphasis on tactical flexibility that characterized Katukov's approach became embedded in Soviet military doctrine, influencing how commanders at all levels approached operational planning. This philosophical shift represented a fundamental change in how the Red Army conceptualized mechanized warfare. Senior officers who had observed Katukov's methods during the war later served as instructors at various military institutions, ensuring that his tactical philosophy continued influencing Soviet military education well into the post-war period. These instructors often used personal anecdotes and direct observations to illustrate theoretical principles. The integration of Katukov's methods into formal military education created a standardized approach to armored warfare that maintained tactical sophistication while enabling mass training. This systematization proved crucial for maintaining professional competence as the Soviet military expanded during the Cold War. Beyond the well-documented major battles, Katukov participated in numerous classified operations whose details remained hidden for decades. These lesser-known engagements reveal additional dimensions of his tactical capabilities and strategic importance. Operation Bagration in June 1944 involved complex deception measures designed to mislead German intelligence about Soviet intentions. Katukov's tank army played a crucial role in these deception operations, using false radio communications and dummy positions to create the impression of defensive preparations while actually preparing for offensive operations. The breakthrough at Bobruisk demonstrated Katukov's ability to coordinate large-scale mechanized operations across difficult terrain. His formations had to navigate extensive marshlands while maintaining the tactical cohesion necessary for successful breakthrough operations, a challenge that required innovative approaches to logistics and communication. During the East Prussian offensive, Katukov's units encountered some of the war's most difficult urban combat conditions. The fortified cities of East Prussia required adaptations of his tactical methods that emphasized close coordination between tanks and assault infantry, modifications that would influence post-war urban warfare doctrine. The crossing of the Oder River involved complex amphibious operations that tested the limits of Soviet engineering capabilities. Katukov's tank army had to establish and maintain bridgeheads under intense German counterattack, demonstrating logistical and tactical flexibility that exceeded conventional armored warfare requirements. Intelligence operations conducted by Katukov's formations included reconnaissance missions deep behind German lines, gathering information about defensive preparations and troop movements. These missions required specialized training and equipment that transformed traditional tank units into multi-purpose reconnaissance forces. The final assault on Berlin involved street fighting that demanded tactical adaptations never contemplated in pre-war doctrine. Katukov's units developed improvised methods for tank infantry coordination in urban environments, techniques that would later influence Soviet thinking about warfare in built-up areas. Several classified post-war missions involved Katukov's formations in occupation duties that required political sensitivity combined with military readiness. These operations demonstrated his ability to adapt military methods to complex political requirements while maintaining unit cohesion and effectiveness. The tactical methods pioneered by Katukov during World War II became central concerns for NATO military planners during the Cold War, as Western intelligence agencies attempted to understand and counter Soviet armored doctrine. American tank development during the 1950s reflected direct responses to intelligence assessments of Soviet capabilities that had been demonstrated under Katukov's command. The M60 Patton tank incorporated design features specifically intended to counter the tactical methods that his formations had perfected. British armored doctrine underwent fundamental revision based on lessons learned from studying Soviet tactics during World War II. The development of the Centurion tank included features designed to address the ambush methods and coordinated operations that Katukov had pioneered. German military advisors working with NATO forces provided detailed assessments of Soviet tactical capabilities based on their wartime experiences. These reports emphasized the importance of countering the flexible, decentralized command methods that Katukov had demonstrated. French military planning during the early Cold War period incorporated specific defensive measures designed to counter Soviet armored breakthroughs, similar to those achieved by Katukov's formations. These preparations influenced the development of French military doctrine throughout the Cold War period. Intelligence assessments of Warsaw Pact military exercises revealed the continued influence of Katukov's tactical innovations on Soviet and Allied forces. NATO observers noted the emphasis on mobility, deception, and coordinated operations that characterized these exercises. The development of anti-tank weapon systems throughout NATO reflected understanding of Soviet tactical methods that traced their origins to Katukov's wartime innovations. These weapon systems were designed to counter the specific threats posed by coordinated armored operations. Training programs for NATO tank crews included scenarios based on intelligence assessments of Soviet capabilities, many of which reflected tactical methods originally developed under Katukov's influence. These training programs shaped an entire generation of Western tank commanders. Katukov's own memoir, On the Edge of the Main Strike, published posthumously, provides intimate insights into his tactical thinking and leadership philosophy. The book reveals the intellectual process behind innovations that transformed armored warfare during World War II. His writing style reflects the methodical approach that characterized his military career, with detailed analysis of tactical decisions and their consequences. These personal accounts provide contexts for understanding how individual battles fit into broader strategic frameworks. References to Katukov appear throughout the memoirs of other Soviet commanders, often highlighting specific instances where his tactical innovations proved decisive. These cross-references create a detailed picture of how his methods influenced broader Soviet military performance. German military writers, particularly those who faced his formations in combat, provided detailed assessments of Katukov's tactical methods in their post-war publications. These accounts offer unique perspectives from opponents who understood the effectiveness of his innovations through direct experience. Military historians studying the Eastern Front consistently identify Katukov as a pivotal figure in the evolution of armored warfare doctrine. Academic analyses of his battles have become standard references for understanding how tactical innovation occurs under combat conditions. The integration of Katukov's tactical principles into Soviet military education created extensive documentary records that preserve detailed explanations of his methods. These training materials provide systematic presentations of innovations that might otherwise have remained embedded in personal experience. International military literature includes numerous references to Katukov's contributions, reflecting the global recognition of his tactical innovations. These references span multiple languages and military traditions, demonstrating the universal relevance of his methods. Contemporary military writers continue drawing lessons from Katukov's experiences, applying his principles to modern warfare scenarios involving advanced technology and different operational environments. This continuing relevance suggests fundamental insights that transcend specific historical circumstances. Even exceptional commanders experience failures that provide insights into the limitations of tactical innovation and the challenges of military leadership under extreme pressure. Katukov's career included several instances where his methods proved inadequate or required significant adaptation. The initial phases of Operation Barbarossa caught Soviet forces, including units that would later serve under Katukov, unprepared for the Wehrmacht's tactical sophistication and operational tempo. These early defeats provided crucial learning experiences that shaped his subsequent tactical development. Several counteroffensives during 1942 resulted in heavy casualties for formations under Katukov's command, demonstrating the risks inherent in aggressive tactics when facing prepared defenses. These failures led to refinements in his methods that emphasized reconnaissance and preparation. The complexity of coordinating large armored formations during rapid advances created logistical challenges that sometimes overwhelmed existing supply systems. Katukov learned to adapt his tactical ambitions to realistic assessments of logistical capabilities, lessons that influenced his approach to subsequent operations. Personality conflicts with superior commanders occasionally limited Katukov's tactical flexibility, forcing him to operate within constraints that compromised optimal tactical solutions. These experiences revealed the importance of political skills in military leadership roles. The transition from defensive to offensive operations required fundamental changes in tactical thinking that initially proved challenging for formations trained primarily in defensive methods. Katukov's ability to adapt his training methods to changing operational requirements demonstrated intellectual flexibility essential for successful military leadership. Several instances of intelligence failures led to tactical surprises that tested Katukov's ability to improvise under unexpected circumstances. His responses to these challenges revealed decision-making processes that balanced immediate tactical requirements with longer-term strategic objectives. The integration of new equipment and weapon systems during the war created temporary disruptions in unit effectiveness that required careful management. Katukov's approach to these transitions demonstrated understanding of the human factors involved in technological adaptation. Learning from these experiences, Katukov developed more sophisticated approaches to risk assessment and contingency planning that reduced the likelihood of tactical surprise while maintaining the aggressive initiative that characterized his most successful operations.